Today's a good day to be recording this video. It is January 30th as of the recording of this. It is one of the coldest days on record in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area as a whole as well. I will be talking about the few times in Chicago's history when the temperature got as cold as it is today. So let's begin. So for starters, the low of today on Wednesday is -21, and that was in the morning, and slowly gets better throughout the day. That being said, though, it was at one point -21 or -20. There are a few other times where it has been in this bone-chilling area of cold in the past century. One of the earliest records of this happening is in December of 1872. On December 22nd, 1872, there was a recorded temperature of 21 below zero, so basically right around the same point as today. There was also a very cold moment on January 9th, 1875, where it dropped to below -20 degrees. There was also another point on January 25th, 1897, where it dropped to below 20 degrees. Now, something interesting to note here is that for a while, there wasn't really a lot of years where it did not go below -20 again. But starting in the early 1980s, these cold fronts made a comeback of -20 or below. In 1982, there were recorded temperatures of -20 or below. Starting on January 10th, 1982, there was a recording of -26 below zero. A few days later, on January 16th, 1982, there was a negative recording of -25 degrees below zero. Later on, the next day, January 17th, 1982, there was a recording of -23 below zero. And then 2 days later, on January 19th, there was a negative recording of -23 degrees below zero. There were also multiple other years where it was very cold in the 80s. 1983, for example, has recorded on December 23rd of that year at 21 degrees below zero. In 84, on January 21st, there is a recording of -22 below zero. So far, though, it was the year 1985 that set the biggest record for the coldest temperature in the city of Chicago. On January 20th, 1985, it was a record-breaking cold temperature of -27 degrees below zero. This has never been broken ever since. This was the coldest day in Chicago's history. There was also a brief moment in the 90s on one bone-chilling cold day on January 18th, 1994, where it also dipped below -20 at -21 below zero. There was a good amount of time, a few decades, where nothing else had happened. That was until this very day that I am recording this, where again, the temperature dropped to -21 degrees below zero this very day. As I am recording this, though, it has increased in temperature. The current temperature currently, as of the recording of this piece, is -15 degrees below zero. This is again the first time this date where it has happened in over 20 years. And it has been, according to forecasters, even colder than it was in 1994. The closest we have come to this has been over 30 years ago, back in the early 1980s, or the mid-1980s, I should say, since it was 1985 when it dropped to -27 degrees. That being said, though, on this date, it did not drop to -27 or below -27, so it did not break the record. Whether a huge cold front comes in again in the near future or the far distant future and breaks that record of -27 degrees below zero is yet to be seen. So that wraps up this piece right here. I hope I got you all up to date on some of the coldest temperatures ever recorded in the history of the city of Chicago. I did not say every single one of them, so I will provide the link to where I got my sources from so you can go through all of them all over again yourself as well. Be sure to subscribe for more content from this channel.